In my final day as the Flames general manager, I figured we could meet together as a team and discuss our expectations.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jessica Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today, I wrap up my stint as the Flames general manager. After a week of hard work and moves getting done, I thought it would be great to have a team meeting and kind of remind everyone what the goal is, where the Flames are at. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And let's jump right into this. Nothing the Flames do this offseason, whether it's me or Craig Conroy, will launch this team into a true contending team. It's kind of obvious through the first round that, you could squeak in and still try to hang with the big dogs and, maybe get a good fight out of it. The second round, not so much. Like, even the best of the best are going down, and the Flames need a lot more than Dustin Wolf in a 30-goal season from not just Nazem Kadri to get this thing off the ground. And it's not about the right now. The Flames are looking at the bigger picture. They are looking at this long-term plan. And I know everyone says, well, the playoffs are the goal. Expectation is to win, and if you want your team to lose and you're not a real fan, and it's not about that. It is about moving your team forward, even if that means having to take a step back. We've seen it. I'm going to refer to Montreal because I feel like they are a good comparison. They got bad, real bad. And obviously we're rebuilding, and it took a little bit of time to, not even be just to be taken seriously. It took like 3 or 4 seasons, really, because this year was finally the year where people were like, oh, okay, well, that's something. And I kind of think of Columbus too, and kind of how the pieces are starting to come together for them. This Flames team works so hard, day in and day out, and you see it all year round. Whether it's them, going to Worlds to get more playing time, or if it's taking a break in the summer a little bit before jumping back into training, everyone puts in the work and it shows. And the chemistry and the camaraderie in the locker room is something that should be praised. But we have to remember that the buddy sitting next to you in the last game of the season might not be here when you start the year next year. They could be traded. They could be gone in free agency. Something could happen where they find themselves on an entirely different team. And going with the flow is important, because what might seem like the wrong decision at the time or a questionable decision could be something that pays off. And I think we need to remember the vision. It isn't to be a fringe playoff team. It's not to have to wait until game 82, 81 or 82 to determine if you're making the playoffs or not. You don't want your season depending on other teams' outcomes. And that is where the Flames were at this year, and not the year previously, but the year before. you want to determine your own faith. And in order to do that, you have to take the lumps. And while this year, really shattered expectations, remember that there's a reason why that was so shocking and so just unprecedented, I guess. The team has the work ethic. It's not a matter of that. It is a matter of finding elite talent and introducing them into your lineup, because you are without that and have been without that for 3 or 4 this year it'll be 4 seasons. And I think for the Flames, it's okay to go out there every night, and if you don't win, you don't win, because we know that every single night is a hard-fought effort. It's not about them not trying or not being invested in the team or, checking out, phoning it in. You're going to get outplayed. And I'm not saying you're going to go out there and have a San Jose Sharks-esque season, but there are going to be lumps. And while going from picking 9th overall and landing Zayne Parekh to being in the playoffs until game 81 is a huge, or not being in the playoffs, but being a fringe playoff team until game 81 is a huge difference. I do think that it is very likely the Flames take a step back this year, whether it be because they trade Rasmus Anderson, or Dustin Wolf goes through the sophomore slump, offense is down, your competitors manage to get a lot better, strength of schedule, lack of offense, poor defense. There are a lot of ways for this team to find ways to slip back. And I want everyone to remember that this season was not, like, this upcoming season is not about making it to the second round of the playoffs. It is getting to game 82. But coming up next, we're going to talk about this next generation of Flames players and what their flexibility during these times of uncertainty, I guess you could say, really say about them as players here on Locked On Flames. If you are like me, your summer is jam-packed with events, whether it is playoff hockey or concerts or theater events. Game Time has you covered, and you can save huge with zone deals. They pick the best seats at the lowest price. Plus, seeing the exact view for my seat before checking out gives me total confidence. I used Game Time to go to just about every single Flames game I went to this year, whether it was at the Saddle Dome or on the road. Game Time includes fees up front and backs every order with their ticket coverage guarantee, covering cancellations, job loss, and even offering 24-hour returns. It's honestly a life hack for getting incredible tickets on the fly. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Flames and making Locked On Flames part of your day. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And we talk about the veterans being such a big part of this group and being part of the reason why this Flames team, this season went the way it did. But I think, as important as it is to put emphasis on their contributions, it's important to remember that you have a group of young guys coming up. And I mean, they're not necessarily just coming up. They're here and have been for a season or two. And it is bright. Connor Zary is an excellent, excellent goal scorer. Matt Coronado already inked his 7-year extension. You have young players like Zayne Parekh and Hunter Brusevich who are on their way. Maybe Sam Honzik. And of course, did I forget to mention Dustin Wolf? There are a lot of players, Basha, Muse, there are so many prospects and players that could really bolster this team. And you have so many reasons to look forward to them becoming part of your nightly lineup. And the flexibility of these players during this time, whether it be players that are going to be playing up and down in the AHL and NHL, shows a lot of maturity and confidence in their future. It's not just about the the physicality out on the ice and what you're showing on the score sheet. The emotional maturity and emotional intelligence also goes a very long way, because what happens if you don't get your way? Are you going to go throw a fit? You're going to storm out? Or are you going to make a difference and show the coaches why sending you down or scratching you was the wrong decision? And your friends that you came up with, I think of, even though he's not on the team anymore, I think of, Connor Zary, Jacob Pelletier, Martin Pospisil, Coronado, and of course Dustin Wolf, all coming up together and breaking into the NHL around the same time and taking over these ginormous shoes to fill and proving people wrong. And while it's not just about doing your own kind of vengefulness sort of thing, it's about playing together as a team. But you want to look like the best guy in the room. You don't want to look like a deer in the headlights when you're around your, co-workers, your teammates, and who are in their late 20s and early 30s. Yeah, sure, you're 22 years old and you're still, learning how to cook salmon at home and not have the team nutritionist make it for you. But there are so many resources for you to lean on, and to so many people for you to talk to learn from, to kind of pair up with in a way, and help you transition to a full-time NHLer. I think about the players like Zayne Parekh and Hunter Brusevich and Sam Honzik, Rory Kearns, Yan Kuznetsov, Solyov, who are on those cusp points. More so, not so much Parekh, but everyone else, being on that cusp of being that next guy up. And if you're the next guy up, there's a lot of attention. There's a lot of pressure on you. No matter what the coach and general manager say, go out and have fun. Yes, go out and have fun, but you also have to remember that this is basically a job interview. And Rory Kearns having 4 points in 4 games, in his first 4 NHL games, is beyond astounding. I want to see more of that. I want to see Kuznetsov and Solo have good defensive outings. I want to see Parekh and Brusewich just go out there and do their jobs. And you can't rush something. And it's not just about rushing players to the NHL or rushing them into high minutes. It's about the whole team, because there was a piece on the win column. I forget who wrote it, but the way that they put it was, if the Flames go out and sign Sam Bennett, they're signaling to the fan base that they're just trying to rush through this rebuild. And that is what I worry about with calling up some of these prospects. And of course, everyone needs time to play. Everyone is going to get that time to play, but we can't just do it based off of like a seniority system, if that makes sense. And I am a firm believer that there will be change next season, for a number of reasons. And it is something to look forward to. Change can be very scary. Fear of the unknown is terrifying. It can be paralyzing. And it's something that can really deter people from, say, like re-signing in a certain organization, or or it lures them in. It all depends on the player and the person and how you handle it. But you never know when your call might be to be the next man up. You don't know when it might be your turn to take a player under your wing or to step up and send a message. But coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show with some anticipatory changes and just, again, the importance of going with the flow here on Locked On Flames. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Jessica Belmosto. We all know that with a rebuild, retool, transitional period, there's going to be changes. Really, any team can anticipate, regardless of what status they're in, can anticipate change in the offseason. And when that happens, there's a shift in responsibilities, whether it be a change up in special teams, whether, you go from, you go from just, being standard defenseman to quarterbacking the power play, or, being a third line player, and now you're seeing time on the penalty kill or the power play, or more minutes because your number one defenseman gets traded. So much can happen in a period of time that is the off season. I look forward to what Craig Conroy does this offseason, because again, he's the one at the helm. He is the one steering this ship. We can say all day, every day that, trading Rasmus Andersson to this team for that pick and this prospect or that player is going to be your best option. And it's going to change, fundamentally change your organization's trajectory and things like that. But I do think some of the changes you're going to see are, of course, you're going to see some changes in the penalty kill, because I don't think Kevin Rooney comes back. You are going to see changes in defensive responsibilities because maybe Rasmus Andersson gets traded. I don't think Joel Hanley comes back. Not just defensive players, but I don't think Anthony Mantha comes back. I don't think Justin Kirkland comes back. I do expect the Flames to start integrating players like Parekh and Brusewicz. I'm just going to call him Brew, because I feel like I'm always saying his name wrong, and it's not intentional. But I do think we see Uyghur back on the top pairing. And so he's already playing upwards of 21 minutes a night. So you're going to see 31-year-old defenseman doing more. And I think I was looking at, pairings and kind of combinations and just a way too early projections. I think if you put Kevin Ball on the same pairing as Mackenzie Weegar, welcome back, Chris Tanev. I think that is something you will see, especially if they're not splitting them up to play with, new guys. That could be lethal. I think a great example of a player growing from their original responsibilities to a change in responsibilities is Kevin Ball. He was a third pairing defenseman with New Jersey. He was fine. He wasn't bad, but the expectation was, okay, he's going to go out there for about like 12, 13 minutes a night and we'll do that. But he really stepped it up. Even if he was playing with Rasmus Andersson, who struggled at a career worst last year, he was still able to show positive progress. I think that you'll also see Ball and Brusewicz together. I think you're going to see Braden Pahal on the third pairing with Miramonov as well. I personally, at the end of the season, the last few games, I don't think that Jake Bean, you completely lost me with Jake Bean. I understand having to have depth defensemen, but with the log jams within the Flames organization as a whole, as well as the talent that is there over him, I think you can just, put him on waivers for, have him play with the Wranglers or just not at all. I have a lot of mixed feelings about Jake Bean. And the important part of this is everyone taking those next steps, because you even see it with like the elite of the elite players. They're constantly outdoing themselves, or even if they're not outdoing themselves, they're staying on a consistent basis. Mitch Marner, I'll just use him as an example because the Leafs are playing multiple consecutive 100-point seasons. You don't need to obviously be putting those kinds of numbers up, but I think of Kadri too. Like, okay, he had high 20 goals, 20, high 30 or low 30s, mid 20s. Okay, he's a point per game player in Colorado, has a little dip in Calgary, but then back-to-back seasons he's playing like vintage Kadri, and it's, you're seeing it. I want to see this with players like Matt Coronado. I want to see him have another 20-goal season. I want to see Connor Zary have a healthy season and where he is producing consistently, or you're seeing that net front presence take more of an effect. Martin Pospisil, I want to see him continue to, bounce back from this regression, because I think that this season was absolutely brutal for him, and I don't think I've ever seen someone hit a sophomore slump quite like that. I want to see Dustin Wolf continue on with his resume and his fantastic statistics. I don't care if he wins the Calder Trophy or not. I think it's very possible that you consistently see Dustin Wolf in, at this point, I guess after this season, maybe his first 2 seasons, you start to see his name kind of get tossed out there for Vezina, maybe the Hart, who knows, because of how good he is. You need to have players that are consistently good and consistently outdoing themselves or maintaining that high level of play if you want to win. And the way that starts is you have to get in on the ground floor and build your way up. So for these young players like Dustin Wolf, like Connor Zary, like Morgan Frost, like Kevin Ball, like Dustin Wolf, like Matt Coronado, you have to have repetition, and that will get you where you want to be. And I look forward to this. And I think this is a way too early prediction, projection, anything. If the Flames do not make the playoffs, it is still going to be fun to watch individual players take those steps forward. And I said this last season too. And how fun of a year was it? But that brings my week as a general manager of the Calgary Flames to an end. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. It's a long weekend in Canada too, so enjoy yourselves. Please have fun for me. But most importantly, make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Your Calgary Flames every day, and I will see you all on Monday. Bye-bye.